Okay, I'd like to call to order the public safety meeting, May 4th, 2021. Any public participation?
No public.
None.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Number 3, review of proposed emergency operations plan. Mr. Rush, we've seen it. Anybody got any questions for?
Mr. Savage had a few.
Okay.
And I'm gonna hit them real quick, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
The broadband and Verizon under the communication, that should have been taken out of there. We had discussed that in our meeting, because that's not a function that would come into our EOC at any point until potentially recovery, when they would have a operations manager come in and help support that. 23, and that was taken out, or was supposed to be taken out. Let me see, that was.
No, I think it was taken out. I was just questioning that, you know, with our IT dependency and such. So if you've got it covered, that's.
And then under 23 drone, that's what I'm trying to find that.
Yeah, you mentioned some type of aircraft as far as
Emergency.
surveillance and stuff, for surveillance issues. Did you consider, is drone included in that?
Do you want to explain that one, since we had that discussion on the drone, the issues that came up from a law enforcement perspective?
Basically, you have to be licensed and, or legally by FAA. There is actually a course now. I saw it just the other day. I think the community college is going to be teaching it, where in order, for somebody from us, like from our department, you actually have to go to school, take this class, and be certified by the FAA in order to operate a drone.
Even for recreational drones? Like recreational?
Yeah,
if I
They're not recreational, no.
I believe there's now a comment on it with recreational drones.
Yeah. But then it's thing that we would use it for, service or, I'm not sure about how, like, damage control or damage,
Right, and when we discussed it, the role specific to enforcement, surveillance, things like that, it was very specific in the law.
Yeah.
So what a judge would have to be requested for, which is why we factor.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And it was the description there, I'm not sure, I gave you all my page numbers and such on that. But do you have that page number there, Brian?
You said 23.
23, maybe I can just hit that real quick.
Yes, sir, please do.
Yeah, it mentioned aircraft. I don't see it right here on. Let me look back here. I must have hit the wrong page there.
I'm looking at, I'm on like page 31 right now, going backwards to look at stuff.
Yeah.
If I find an area, that way we can discuss it.
Yeah, it talked about, aircraft, not so much aircraft. It had another definition. It didn't really specify aircraft, which kind of, opened the door for some type of aerial surveillance, whether it be helicopter, plane, and that's the only reason why I mentioned the drone, and I wasn't sure exactly how you would handle that.
Accomack County does have.
Right, but not using them for law enforcement surveillance.
Yes. It can't be used for law enforcement surveillance.
Right.
It can be used
Without needing a new set of
for
guidelines.
other things like damage control and things like that,
And that was,
And that was one of the things I was looking at was the damage control stuff. Say we had some kind of catastrophic event that happened, we flood,
Yes.
whatever,
Yeah,
those types of things.
we could, and like I said, I'm sure, Accomack County, they're
safety?
public safety.
Mhm.
You know, they would, work with us, I'm sure, in a situation like that, but as far as the police department being able to do it, we couldn't, we had a
Certified
certified operator through the FAA.
Okay.
The things that they're doing now, so.
Mhm. All right.
Okay, I think I see what you're referencing here. It was number 6 in G on.
Oh, yep, I see it right now.
Provide air support for damage assessment and search and rescue.
Mhm.
Is that what you were referencing?
Exactly, yeah.
So, would you like to see drone put in there? Because we do have that, we don't have access, but we have the capability to get that access through mutual aid and so forth.
I'm thinking so. I mean, in this environment we live in, you know, how valuable drones are right now, and,
Yeah.
um,
And as far as I know, I don't think even if, somebody wanted to.
If it
offer
came right,
service,
yeah, I was gonna say, if it came right down to it,
Yeah.
that it was an
Somebody
emergency.
had an amateur.
yeah.
yeah, you may have blocked roads and planes can't get in the air and such, but maybe, you at least have that capability,
Right.
And I wasn't sure, just the way it was written, if it did include that. I mean, if you're, I mean,
It could, but certainly
because it's a different verbiage than what I'm used to seeing, what I'm saying, when it says air support, I'm not talking about jet flyers or anything flying over anything,
Yeah.
Global Hawk or,
Blue Angel.
yeah, whatever, but, okay.
We'll add that to that. We'll include drone language in there as well. All right, and then 116, you had duties and incident command, it looks like. So let me get down here to 116. That's the job description for the pod site, incident commander.
Okay.
Duties. Is your question?
Yeah, I think what I was looking at, and it kind of fell over into the next page, which is safety officer. I couldn't, do you have a designated safety officer?
So we would, for this particular plan, which is the appointed distribution, the incident commander would appoint a safety officer because you have a lot of vehicles, you have equipment, forklifts, things like that, taking heavy pallets and stuff off of vehicles and trucks. So yes, we would designate, but we don't have a designated safety officer. That would be
Okay.
appointed with each activation of this particular part of the attendant.
But for right now, you are the incident commander, is that?
For this particular, for a pod, I probably wouldn't be the incident commander.
Okay.
Because we would be here in the UOC managing other things, so someone else more than likely would be appointed as the incident commander for this particular activity. And that incident commander would then appoint their safety officer.
Okay.
So essentially, we're gonna have little incidents going inside of our big incident when we're, activating this type of stuff. Answer your question?
I think so. I'm just, you're always looking at, emergency readiness and such.
Sure.
And who to talk, who do I go to right now, that type of thing. So I was just had a
And
little
again,
question
which
on that.
is why in these particular plans, you see those activities spelled out, so that whoever gets assigned to that task can then, okay, here's what I need to do. I need my safety officer, all that logistics, planning, all that kind of stuff to manage that. So this would be a small incident inside of our bigger incident when we would do something like this.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And pretty much everybody in his department and my department, the fire department, we've already received incident command training, several branches of the ICS training that we've had to go through. So it's like with any other training, of course, that's, you don't do it all the time. That's why we've got these, we've lined up everything where somebody can just take it and go,
Mhm.
and say, okay, here's what I have to do.
Even our public works folks are trained, so everybody's trained to a different level. If you're just a field ops person, real low on the totem pole, you'll have 700, which is the basic national incident management system training, and 100, which is basic incident command. So you understand somebody's in charge and you answer to them, essentially. Then there's 200, and then once you get to 300, that's a classroom version, and then 400, all the top executive type folks have to have the 400 type training. So there's very few folks that have 400, within inside the town, because we're not required to have all these people. Now, we have more than what a lot of folks have, because people have expressed interest. Hey, I would like to go to this class. But guess what? You ask, you're gonna get the training. So, and then there's little other small trainings that's mostly done online, but we're required to have so much of that documented just for grants and things like that, so. So we're very robust in our incident management system here in the town. And in one of the resolutions, the NIMS resolution, I don't know if that was included. So when that was approved, we actually had to have a resolution to, hey, we're gonna follow the National Incident Management System, which mostly came about after 9/11, because again, anytime we have a failure, it's usually communication. And this kind of deals with, okay, span of control, 3 to 5, maybe 7, and then communication. Who do you report to along the way, which keeps us very cohesive in our communication. And then at 117, we just talked about that, obviously with the safety officers. And then 244, you have town manager Mike Colbert, so I'm trying to find
Yeah, I
out.
think you got James West in there still.
Okay, let me find that. That's in our waterworks.
Water quality crisis.
Yeah. Yep, got it right here. So I'm gonna highlight that and we will go back and make that change. Thank you for picking that up. And you can see a lot of people have read this and we still find things, so that's why.
I didn't catch that.
This room full of people read it.
It's why we do what we do. So yes, thank you very much for catching that one. It's easier to fix it now than later. All right. All right, that was all you had on your
Yes.
list here.
That's all.
Okay.
I don't have anything else for the EOP. You answered my question the other day.
Okay.
So does anybody else have anything about the EOP? Okay. Mike, no? All right, we'll move on to number 4. I had asked Mike to put this on the agenda, consider municipal center security doors. When you walk into the town office over there, and you got the 2 doors that go this way, and the first one you run into is where Mark's office is, and then the other one goes back down to the hallway. I would really like to see some kind of buzzer system on them, that the girls out front can buzz somebody in to go that way instead of somebody just being able to walk in those doors. The climate that we're in today, it just makes me feel more comfortable. And also, and Robbie, refresh my memory here, do the girls out front have any kind of way to quickly communicate with you all over there? What do they have?
They've got a panic alarm.
Panic alarm? How does that run?
They press a button and then it goes into the cockpit dispatcher feed.
Uh-huh.
They light up, on our season
Uh-huh.
dispatch, and that starts flashing.
Is that battery operated? How is that
That's
run?
electric. It's electric, I believe.
It's electric.
Isn't it mounted to the desk?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should
Yeah,
be.
it's mounted to Luis's desk,
Yeah.
and, it's like a doorbell,
Okay.
and they press that.
We'll check on that, electric
Yeah.
battery.
Check on that for me.
I'm pretty sure it's electric, but I don't ever remember,
Right.
anytime we checked it, I know it's
Always work.
And
we-
we've never had to replace batteries in it.
When you and I talked about this the other day, that red light is just a light, it's not an audible.
Right.
It's just
You can
light.
actually, if there's nothing going on in there, you can hear it click. So they go click, 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 and it flashes.
Mhm.
You know.
That's also the same alarm they get if you broach the back door without turning the alarm off,
Right.
which I did early on.
All right, that's good. I'm glad to know that. I would like for us to look into some kind of buzzer system for those 2 doors.
So you know, like we have in the police car.
Yep.
I looked at that, I looked at that today. Both of those doors have what we call passage sets on them. You can't lock them.
Mhm.
Just like, just all it does is keep the door closed basically during a fire. It won't let the pressure push the door open. If we want to go low-tech, we can just put privacy locks on there so that they stay locked from the outside all the time, and someone has to come to the door and open it and let you in.
The one thing we gotta keep in mind is us
Yes.
going back and forth.
Yeah.
Well, you and I have a key.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean,
I think just having somebody to get up, how about if they're on the phone or something like that, you know?
Well, that-
I'd much rather see,
And we can always, the employees can always, with a key, because I was
Right.
going to say, most of these, or the ones I've had experience with, you can they either have an electric release in the lock,
yep,
or they have a magnetic lock at the top that holds the door shut, and when you push the button, it interrupts the magnet and allows the door to open. I prefer the magnetic catch, just because I've seen somebody push and push and push on a door that's got a magnet at the top and they end up warping the door before it opens. But the problem with the magnetics also is when you lose power, the doors are open. And also, if there is nobody in that office that sees you come in, even if you're an employee, you can't get in. Well, employees who have access can go to the conference room door here and go through with their key, or walk around and come through the back door with an access code. So, I mean, we could look at it either way. We could just put security locks on there that you need a key, and that's going to cost us probably $400 or $500, or we can spend $1,500 to put a couple of magnetic catches on there. I mean, it's just a matter of what you want to see.
I guess one of my concerns would be.
But it does
with
need
what
to be,
you-
it does need to be addressed, I agree. I'm sorry.
What you said is if an emergency situation, something health-wise is in there, and you try to get through a door, somebody gotta find somebody with a key or something to get in the door, and then, someone's having a heart attack or whatever. I mean, I know there's other people who may be around, but they may, with that
Well,
person,
like our door that comes into the police department,
That's a,
it's not magnetic.
no, it's an electronic catch.
Yeah.
Electronic strike is what they
Right,
call it.
electronic strike.
Electronic strike.
Yeah, so I can get in there with a key, because if dispatcher, I do that all the time, if dispatcher's tied up, I'll just take the key
Mhm.
and open it, and coming out, don't need to be buzzed or anything. It's just,
Mhm.
And there's a
walk
motion
out.
sensor on the inside that releases the catch when you walk up to the door.
yeah. Whatever's on that police department door is what I would like to see on those two
Okay.
doors.
We'll take a look at that, get some prices.
I think, and I have to go back to, I mean, there's a lot of, when one of them's to lunch, one of them's on the phone, Mark might be on the phone, Mark's office is the closest right there to it. It only takes a second,
Oh, yeah.
and, I just I wanna keep our employees as safe as possible. And, I just think that would be a good deterrent.
Okay. That's a phone call in a few days. We should be
Yeah.
able to knock it out in a couple of weeks.
I don't know, does that have to go through full council?
No, it's money we can probably find somewhere.
Okay. You good with that, Jay?
Mhm.
I think Arthur would be too. I mean, a lot of us come in through the back door when we need to, but,
Yeah, I think it's pretty, that's all we had over at NASA. I was in the communications department, and of course, they're on every land closet. We had over 100 land closets. And, our building, everybody, it's called to access for the most part, which is, similar to what you got.
Right.
At,
this, is it something like, however you do it, that there's a buzzer on each one of their desks?
yeah,
Or
we'll
or
put,
one at the front?
the ones I've used before both come with a console.
Mhm.
The console contains a two-way speaker and a microphone, and also a release button that operates the door. So you can actually, if someone's standing out there, you can actually push the button and say, "Can I help you?" Of course, we wouldn't need that feature in
No.
here because you can hear it from
No.
one side to the other. But yeah, you just push the button,
Buzz
release
the
the
door.
strike.
We've got it at a church office where our parsonage was,
Mhm.
front office there.
At some point, I would like to change the security system in this building, but since how we're in public right now, I'm not going to go into the details on the security system,
Mhm.
but At some point, it would be nice to upgrade that, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Okay.
Not far from my side, though.
But,
Not far from my side.
right, I understand.
Okay. Any other questions about the doors? Anybody? You good with that, Mark? All right, number 5, discuss CPD staffing levels.
Yes.
Chief?
Yes. I've got some data here just to show you all. I mean, you know, pretty much as we started discussing last night, the way some of the things are
Thank you.
going, you know, right now.
Thanks, sir.
Especially with the law enforcement community. And again, Ms. Bowden, I believe you were here for my interview for the
Yes.
chief's position.
Mhm.
Much sad as you were not, but one of the things that I told them in my interview was I felt then strongly, and I even feel more strongly now, that we don't need officers out here working by themselves. You know, the Delmar incident,
Mm-hmm.
you know, has brought it that much more to the forefront for me. I know, you know, it's a problem, for me to come and say, hey, you know, we need more officers. But just to give you a little overview and a little bit of, you know, basic history, I started with the Chincoteague Police Department in 1987. At that time, we had 8 officers. 1987. That's what, 35 years? And we have 10. If the budget passed, we'll have 11, possibly 12, you know, if we get the grant, also for the school resource officer. And while the extra position that's in the budget now is for an investigator position, as I've told, you know, the council and everybody, the investigator position was actually in the budget in 2019, and I took over 2020 fiscal year budget. Chief Mills had put that in there. I held off at the time on hiring anybody because I have been here for quite a while, and I have seen some investigators, you know, quite a few have come and gone. I wanted to be sure, you know, if this was my department, I was chief of this department, I wanted to be sure that we needed an investigator, you know, position. My first year, as you all know,
Bless your heart.
was a tough year, you know, for our department as a whole. And, you know, a lot of things happened in that first year that hadn't happened in a long time. So, of course, I come to the conclusion that, yes, we do need an investigator, not only because of that, but even, you know, to look back on the cases that, you know, the officer that we had that had investigator experience at the time, you know, looking back on his cases, some of them now, they go back to 2018 right now, that they have not been, you know, brought to, you know, fruition, either charges or cleared, you know, one way or the other. And part of that is, you know, of course, you know, when you've got people that are working a shift, it's hard to, you know, to get out and talk to people, you know. I mean, day shifts sometimes, yes, but we, you know, with the police department, we have, the officers have certain duties on every shift, day shift, evening shift, and the midnight shift, that they have to do. You know, it's required every night. Some of it is, you know, locking up the town, you know, restrooms and, you know, the, you know, dog park and things of that nature, you know, deposits, you know, for temps. So there's things that we have to do, you know, every day that we have to get done. And then, you know, of course, the calls that come in, you know, depending on the call volume, you know, is, again, how much you'll be able to, you know, to get in, you know, if you're working, you know, by yourself, or if you're working, you know, even with another person, a lot of times, you know, if you've got a, you know, pretty big investigation going on, you can figure you're gonna be talking with somebody for at least an hour. You know, if there's only one other person on, you're tied up talking with this person. Something happens, then that it's something bad enough, then you just say, hey, you know, I'll have to get up with you later and go, you know, interrupt your investigation and so forth. So, you know, that's why, you know, I finally, you know, come to the conclusion that, you know, yes, I think we did need this investigator position. And I came to the conclusion also that the investigator, once they were caught up, you know, with their cases, then they would go back and fill in, you know, or be an extra, you know, to a shift. You know, me and Mr. Talbot were talking today. You know, part of the benefits of the town is you get vacation. You know, when an officer takes off on vacation, then I have to fill their slot. It's not like the town girls or even public works so much, where when they take off, they take off. If somebody from our department takes off sick leave or vacation, I have to fill that slot somehow. And a lot of times, right now, the way we have it set up is, you know, we have a supervisor, myself and Tyler, right now, Captain Greenlee, are working the days. You know, we've got our jobs to do, as you know, as I mentioned last night, we've got a daytime officer on, but we're here if something happens during the day that we can respond, you know, with the day officer. In the evenings, we have a supervisor that comes on at 4 p.m. and then the afternoon shift or evening shift comes on at 5. We work 10-hour shifts. They work from 5 in the afternoon until 3 in the morning. The supervisor will work from 4 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning, and then our midnight person works from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So we've got actually 2 people on from 4 o'clock until 9 o'clock. And then from 9 o'clock until 3, we had 3 people on. And usually 9 to 3 is going to be your busiest times, especially, you know, when we get back to, you know, the island being more open, bars and so forth, you know. You know, usually around 3 o'clock it does start dying down. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, we have calls at, you know, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, and that's the thing with law enforcement. You can't really pin it down to say, you know, well, this is the time when you're going to have, you know, most of your calls, you know, or this, you know, is the time. Same thing with EMS. You know, you just never know. But I wanted to you know, try to get you all, to give you an idea of, you know, how, you know, the things have, you know, how our call volume has gone. And that's what each one of these is. This is the total call volume.
Well, looking at your CFS for 2019, the year you took over,
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
that says it right there.
right there.
And that's the big one. Now,
Robbie's here.
2020
Let's call.
Is the amount of,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, basically we're not, you know, answering only the bare minimum of calls, you know, basically no vehicle stops unless it was, you know,
Right.
something terrible. So that's why 2020, of course, you know,
Even still, just hanging right in there.
fell off. Yeah, I mean, for an all
Yeah.
year.
Look at that.
And, you know, and you can see, you know, even this year, you know, so far,
Yeah.
we've really just started back, you know, with, you know, the vehicle stops and so forth, you know, now. So that's what I said, you know, if you combine it, to me, you know, like I said, with you know, from 1987, 35 years ago, we had 8, now we got 10, you know,
You've not come too far.
we have.
What are you asking for?
I told y'all, Tyler and I sit there Friday pretty much the biggest part of the day, tossing schedules back and forth, and even trying to move, you know, people back and forth. And I think I've come to the conclusion that if we were be able to get 2 more officers,
Plus your investigator?
yeah, plus the investigator. The investigator, like I said, that's gonna be, you know, doing his investigator thing until we need them for something else or until they are caught up with what they're doing. You know, and then we can bring them in, you know, to work a shift, you know, if they have to or whatnot. Because most of the time, your investigator, like when I was with Acoma, you know, most of the time they work day shift. They're on call nights and weekends. you know, because they had 5 now.
Right.
And when I went in '89, when I went to the sheriff's office, I think we had,
Probably 2.
we didn't have any investigators, but we had, I'm trying to think now, 13 deputies. I think, 13 road deputies. And now I believe they have 20.
Hmm.
So,
These-
plus the 5 investigators, so, you know, I mean, everybody's growing.
Does these 2 more officers, is one of those your SRO or no?
No, because the SRO, again, is not gonna be, you know, they're basically, they're working for us, but they're not from the old-time schools and such.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're gonna be expected to be at that school every day the school's open. And they're gonna be expected to work with extracurricular activities, you know,
Mhm.
that happen there, and ball games and so forth like that. So we will have them when school's out in the summertime, again, you know, as an extra, you know, extra person, you know, through the summer.
So 2 more officers, investigator, and your SRO.
Yeah.
So 4.
So basically, you know, if we get everything passed in the budget, that's, you know, that we've got for this year, you know, then, you know, I'm looking at, and if we could, you know, I don't know if we could, you know, get it into next year's budget, or, I mean, you know, the 2022 fiscal year. I'm not even asking, you know, for that. I'm asking for, you know, to look to this as, you know, for the future. If we could work it out in the 22 budget, great, you know, we could try. But at least start shooting for, you know, even maybe the 23, because I know it's, you know, we're asking for, you know, more people, that's, you know, more cost to the town,
Does it warrant it?
you know.
Just like, does it warrant it?
Exactly.
I look at these requests, I'm gonna look at it as a request, just like you. How do you put a price on public safety?
Right.
How do you put a price on somebody's life? How do you put a price on somebody's safety? And, you know, if Mike, if you can find a way to make it work in the next few years, however Robbie needs it,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
much needed.
it
I'm not-
is.
I think, you know, and that's where I'm going at with, you know, with the 2019. I'm not trying to ask for anything that I don't think is, you know, is needed. And I know, you know, a lot of times, you know, oh, this is Shingatig. Well, Delmar was Delmar.
Well, I want to tell you something. When I dispatched over there, the first thing I did when I came on shift was read the log from the night before. People would be amazed what happens on Shingatig overnight, even in the daytime.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I'm not talking, you know, major stuff, but it's like, man, you know, we have to keep our community safe.
Yes, and that's the whole thing.
And just like you
Yeah.
said, Delmar's Delmar,
Yeah.
Shingatig,
We
Shingatig.
want to keep our community safe, our, you know, our residents,
Our officers safe.
our visitors, and our, you know, officers
Mhm.
and, you know, EMS too, you know, I mean, everybody.
Mike, do you have something to add to that?
No, I will say that, you know, as you all know, after the meeting last night, the budget was advertised and goes to public hearing. Well, it went to public hearing last night. It'll be voted on up or down on at the workshop meeting on the 20th. So this year, as far as budgeting is concerned, is pretty much sailed.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we can take a look at. I will say, and somebody wise once told me that, yes, and you're right, you can't put a price on public safety, but the way that most municipalities look at this is like an insurance policy. How much insurance can you afford and should you buy? You know,
Mhm.
you can obviously buy enough insurance that you cover for everything all the time, or you can buy enough insurance that covers you for the worst catastrophes and the most frequently things issued. But that's kind of the way, and if I'm not mistaken, Brian, didn't you tell me that?
Actually, Mr. West used that quite a
Mr.
bit.
West used that.
And it was assume risk, how much insurance you want,
Yeah.
how much of risk you gonna assume.
How much risk do you want to assume? And that's a good way to look at it.
I know.
All of us are used to buying insurance, and
Yep.
especially medical insurance. How much can you afford, and how much do you think you want? If you can afford more and you want to be protected, there you go. So that's kind of the way we look at it.
Yeah. And I kind of look at it as I'd rather have it and not need it
Than
than
need it, not have it. Absolutely, absolutely.
And
Um,
and we definitely need to look at, and I think I referenced it last night, as our tourism base grows, because tourism is our hot topic, it's the most dense of
I
our
think it can be
population.
argued, you know, and we'll find out more once our census comes out. But I think everybody's thinking that our census is actually gonna, you know, be lower for the actual number of residents that we have on here than it was 10 years ago. So of course, what other explanation have you got? You know, when you look at these numbers, and in 2019, we had 6,188 calls for service. Year before, we had 4,700. You know, last year hadn't happened, you know, we don't know what we would have.
And we can certainly correlate those with meals and occupancy taxes, see if they correlate with increased visitorship, which you would expect.
Right, right, you know, if it were.
You have what you need for this budget?
For now?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, yeah.
I know you're gonna hire somebody.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, well, that's a replacement position.
Right.
You know, and then.
Well, you're
if the
gonna hire an
budget-
investigator as
If
well.
the budget is passed, then my plans are to promote somebody to the investigator from the then department, and then hire, you know, a person to fill that slot.
Okay.
So that would be our extra person, that's what I'm saying, you know, if, you know, if a need does arise, you know, where, you know, somebody gets sick or, you know, something like that, it's easier to take that investigator
Right.
and say, hey, you know, I need you to work this night, you know, for this person.
Right.
And maybe even, you know, for somebody taking a week off, you know, we can, you know, fill them in there, you know. And that's why I said, you know, as a wish, you know, would be the way we've got the schedule set up now. I had been asked at one time to look at a 12-hour shift. The only thing, when I looked at the 12-hour shift, was it cut us back. You know, you only had 2 people on. You had 2 people on all the time, but that's it. You only had 2 people on. So if somebody got arrested, which we know law enforcement should get arrested all the time, then that like one man covered the
Mhm.
time, while that person had to be taken to Akron. You know, and yeah, you can say, oh, that's what, an hour and a half, but still, that's an hour and a half or something. And like I told you, you know, a while ago, you know, there's times when we had 3, you know, most of the time, especially on weekends, where we had at least 3 on. So to me, that was downgrading the coverage for our island, so I didn't even, you know, entertain the 12-hour shifts. You know.
I just think that extra man, that you're talking about initially in that vehicle, I mean, it's just a common sense thing. It suppresses a tensionless situation, I think, with that extra person in there.
Oh, yes.
It gives, it limits your options, or that person, that officer's options on how he handles a situation,
Right.
you know, and,
Oh, yes, I've been on calls by myself.
yeah, it's.
You know, and, you know, you're gonna handle, most officers, I believe, would agree, they're gonna handle a call that they're on by themselves a lot different than if they've got somebody there, you know, backing them up.
And from the EMS department, certainly, you know, I would have to get behind that because we rely on the officers heavily in different locations and different times of the day, specifically nighttime, to keep our crews safe. Because there's sometimes that it requires an officer,
Oh,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I've been in emergency rooms where I was like, that guy's having an issue there, and I know the officer is the one that accompanied
I
them.
mean, you get especially newer crews, you know, we're our newer folks that don't have the street experience that some do, although we try to split that up so it equalizes. However, you know, you can get into some very difficult situations really quick. You know, without even as an experienced provider myself, that you rely on that officer to be there, and us for them as well, but
Oh, yeah.
certainly.
And again, coming back to the interview, you know. I
It's a
think-
symbiotic relationship.
I think it's working better now. We've got officers that actually
Yes, you do.
don't get called, but they'll hear the call and they'll go there with them.
Hey, can I help? Can I carry it back?
Yeah.
And look,
Anything that, you know,
I've seen it with my own eyes.
That's
It's a great relationship, and I want it to stay that way.
yeah.
It's the best that it's ever
It's the
been.
best it's ever been, and it's a long time coming, that's for sure. I want a lot of insurance. I
think
just,
we all do.
you know, I know, and I get it. I mean, it always is gonna come down to where's the money gonna come from. It will always be that way.
Right.
That's with anything that you do. Being in the profession, so to speak,
You work for us,
volunteer wise,
you
work with you, all
volunteer.
that and all that. I've seen firsthand, you know, what can go down. Been in situations, you know, that have not been pleasant. It's, I don't think that we can ever have enough protection for our citizens, our visitors, and for our employees when it comes to that. So, I would say, let's work on it. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you, that's all
Yeah.
I'm asking, is that we can try to, you know, I mean, I'm not expecting us to, you know, to jump right on it and, you know, be able to have it done by, you know, the next budget, but I at least want us to start, you know.
Thinking
taking
down the
steps
road.
Down that road to, you know, to getting to that point, you know, where, because I really don't see it getting any better anytime soon for law enforcement. You know, And we are blessed, again, I'll say that here on this island. You know, but we've got a large influx of people that come here, and you never know who you're dealing with,
Yep,
you know.
that's for
Often
sure.
Same thing with them, you know. Somebody might think they're, you know, somebody might call in they're sick, but,
It's, things are hitting closer to home than what they used to,
yes.
that's for sure. Anything else on that, Robbie?
So, thank you all very much.
Okay. Anybody have anything else before I go to committee member comments? No? Jay? Anything?
I just commend you, and I try to, each meeting we have, commend everybody for the town, but, you know, we have to consider our budget, but then again, we have to consider our safety, our health, and so forth, and remembering that you guys, you know, this is your livelihood, this is what you're all about, and just taking that into perspective as well, that, you know, you're doing a fantastic job with what you've got to work with. And it's up to us to ensure that you don't get burned out, you don't lose that that heart and stuff for your job, and, you know, and I know
The love
at
of it,
times, the
and-
love of your job and such, so.
You've got to have it.
You got to in your profession, and I just commend you, and just press on. I mean, I'm very supportive of giving you, and I know our manager is as well, and we'll make it happen. We just get more people here and more tax dollars, and that can go to the calls, and that's what it's all about. It's us working hand in hand with each other.
Right.
That teamwork is very important. So I just thank you all.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna echo that sentiment. You know, we've seen the very worst of scenarios here on our island when it comes to EMS. You know, the worst accidents, the worst tragedies, the worst things you can see on the same side. You've seen that too, and then in the same sense, we've seen some of the best things ever when you're able to save that life, you know, somebody giving birth, or you've been able to, you know, save somebody or help them out. And we're in a different climate, and that's the whole bottom line. We're in a different world, a different climate, and public safety has got to be put right up there to the top. That man right there knows my greatest fear is pony penning with the big crowds. You don't know who's coming in, who's going out. You don't know what they got. You don't know what they're doing. Him and I discuss it just about every year, don't we?
Except for the last two.
Except for the last two. And I hate feeling that way.
Yes, we shouldn't.
I hate feeling that way, you know, but I hold my breath. And, you know, and that night when I go home and lay my head down, I'm like, thank you, Lord. But unfortunately, it's the type of world we live in. And so I feel like we have to be as proactive as possible on it all. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Good motion.
All right, that's it. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.